know my future is, but it'll never be your past. You can disturn your world, you'll never ever change the past. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Good.
I'm fine. Do I always sound like a robot? What are you talking about?
I'm muted. Yay! Yeah,
They
I
can
know.
hear us, but they can't hear you.
No, so I was just telling everybody how much I hated them. So
Oh, there we go. Hello, everyone. Good evening.
yes, so
Today has been a weird 24 hours. I can tell you that much right now.
oh, it has been a fantastic 24 hours. Today's topics that we will be discussing, we are going to go over some. And here's the thing: is we had a lot of things to talk about, so we had to narrow it down to 3 topics. So, and they're worthwhile. Trust me. We're going to talk a little bit about the nonsense with Atari. We're going to talk a little bit about Jan. Your camera's freaking out.
It does that. Sorry.
Yeah. And we're going to be talking a little bit about Blizzard. Apparently they pissed off a couple people. And then we're gonna end the night hopefully on some good news. Sony announced something. We'll talk about it later. But first off, let's do the roundtable nonsense. Mark, what have you been up to, and what's going to be going on soon?
Well, as far as what I have been up to, I mean, not really a lot. I have been kind of trying to work out what I'm doing with board game night this month, just because one of my regular players isn't available. So it was kind of a fuck. Let's figure out what we're doing, that kind of thing. But we got it worked out, and we're going to be having board game night on the 26th. In the meantime, it's been October for a couple of days, which means that on my live stream we've been playing spooky games, mostly Prey at this point. Though we played Home Sweet Home, which was weird. I am also apparently going to be recording a voice for a radio.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I don't know exactly all of the particulars, but I was directed to do this by my friends over at Podeskew Podcast, Mr. Carl from my board game nights, and his friend Rico. Once I have more details, I will let everybody know. But for now, I have been tapped to do a voice, and that's what's going on. Also, I've been playing Destiny 2, which is free now, and it's fine. It's Destiny 2. If you like Destiny, then it's good. If you don't, then it's still free. So fuck it. Might as well give it a shot.
All right. Anything going on with your future streams?
Not at the moment. No.
Okay. So, Jan, how about you?
Oh boy. Last couple of weeks have been pretty busy. We've been bouncing back and forth between Iceborne, Code Vein, and Destiny 2 Shadowkeep, which dropped a couple of days ago. The base Destiny 2 is free. Forsaken and Shadowkeep still cost because it gives access to season passes. Interesting idea what they did with Shadowkeep is that now it's like you buy a battle pass, kind of like all of the other style of like BR games. So like Fortnite and Apex and all these have like battle passes. It's the same kind of idea where you gain additional materials, but outside of that, like everything else has been upgraded. There's a lot of quality of life changes. So I'm having fun with Shadowkeep. That was a worthwhile purchase there. I've been talking and dealing with the A4 crew. Hubs probably knows more about who they are than probably Mark does.
Yeah, I have no idea. No idea.
A4 Andre and the A4 crew. They have been about a week and a half ago. after everything that happened with the stuff at Evo, and then all of the nonsense that happened at TwitchCon with the gal that basically almost died from getting drugged.
The one who almost got roofied without and
Oh
mixed
no,
without, huh?
it was not a roofie. It was
No.
bad
It was a really bad mix of medication that was thrown into an alcoholic beverage.
right.
That
It
would
was like 2 or 3
90%
different
of the
things.
time they say lead to death.
Right. So she actually did stop breathing, and it was super bad.
Oh my
And
god.
the only reason she actually was able to survive is because she had friends who she trusted who were able to make the judgment call and pulled her out of the party and got her to the ER almost within 15, 20 minutes. She did stop breathing for about, I think she said it was between 4 to 6 minutes. Yeah, it was super bad. But so the A4 crew has taken it upon themselves to take all of October's proceeds from subscriptions and donations and bits and put it towards a item called the SIP chip. So for those who don't know what that is, it's basically a small device, kind of like a pregnancy test, where you can dip your finger in your drink, dip it onto the chip, and one line is it's fine, 2 lines is it's drugged. The fact that something like this has to exist in any capacity is ridiculous and crazy, and I don't think it should have to be a thing like this, but it's a thing. And so everybody in the A4 crew has decided that they're going to take all of October's proceeds from all of their streams and donate it towards the company and getting as many as they can for as many events as they can and distribute them in any way possible. If people are interested in knowing more, you can Google SIP chip, SIPCHIP. It's super important that people understand that this is not something that people are going to idly sit by and let happen anymore. People want to be safe. People want to be able to go out and not have to worry about whether or not their drink is drugged. And that goes for both men and women. Nobody should have to worry about that. So this is something that I'm pretty passionate about too, because like he started talking about it and we all had this like hour and a half long conversation on his stream about it. It was pretty ridiculous, but like the fact that this is something that he's willing to do, he's foregoing all of the proceeds. Like, so all of the stuff, any money or any donations or anything that he gets, will be going to that product and will be going to be able to distribute. And they're also trying to get in with a lot of other event organizers, especially within like, not just within the FGC, but just in general. I know that they had already tried to reach on the East Coast, because I know that there's a big event that's supposed to be coming up here pretty soon.
This weekend
so
is TFC.
Thank you. That's right. Yeah. So I know that they're going to have some representation there at TFC for that specifically, and then going forward, they're going to try to do what they can to try to network with other people to actually get this product not just in the minds of people, but actually in the hands of people as well, soon. So we'll see what happens. It'll be interesting. But yeah, that's pretty much how my 2 weeks has gone.
Yeah, that's just absolutely
How you doing,
ridiculous. I'm fine.
Good.
I finally got my Steam code for Indivisible. I'm enjoying that. I'm catching up on, I almost freaked out because I thought my PlayStation 4 kicked the bucket. The other day I was able to recover it. Thank God for the cloud saves. And the fact that they give you options that does not completely delete everything on your hard drive.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, that's good. But I do make a habit of every now and then to back up my hard drive to a portable. So you can definitely do that with the Xbox as well. But the Xbox I feel is actually better suited for for software failure, whereas the PlayStation 4 I've been seeing problems lately in terms of the dashboard and all that stuff seeming to want to crash more often. So thank God I was able to restore everything and play it. I beat Link's Awakening last week. I mean, that's the best 10 hours I've ever played. It was a fun game. It's sadly still also one of the easiest Zelda games I've ever played. But then again, it was made to be a portable game that could be beaten quickly. So it is what it is. Outside of that, and I mean nothing else has really been going on for me. I moved my streams from Wednesday to Thursday for the time being because I'm loving the Wednesday Night Wars. I'm looking forward to tomorrow. But enough about what I like. After that, nobody cares about me. We are going to move on to our first topic of conversation, and let's start off with a doozy. Not that what Jan brought up wasn't a doozy. Okay, this is actually mild in comparison. We're going to talk about the Atari VCS. So, they've been pretty quiet for the last several months. Practically non-existent, as if they just literally fizzled out of existence. And then all of a sudden, a couple weeks ago, they come out with a big announcement of about 1,000 or so games that are going to be part of the system upon launch. A bunch of these, are games that I don't think they have the license for. There have been numerous people, including the man right there that was just in our chat, Smash JT, debunking the nonsense that's going on with all those games. And the latest, of course, now coming out is that the lead architect for the Atari VCS has quit and claimed to have not been paid for 6 months. And he is hoping that his story about how he was mistreated will inspire other employees, which is kind of hard to believe because I think last I checked there was only like 10 employees at Atari for this whole thing to go down. And it'll make them come forward with their horror stories as well in regards to, how Atari is running this whole thing. So, why is this still a thing? Why hasn't it become vaporware yet? Mark?
Because there's investment capital involved in it, and so long as there is investor capital involved in it, the people who are associated with it on the front lines are going to continue to pretend that everything is good in hopes that they can get more investment capital. It's how the grift goes. You announce a thing and you can get investors to pay money for it, and then you continue backing that thing long beyond the point of reason while getting more investment capital so that you can have nice lunches for a while. And then when the grift completely dies, you go underground for 6 months to a year, and then you come back with a new grift and repeat the process over again.
Sounds to me more like you're just what's the term I'm looking for? It's a form of fraud.
It's grifting. That's what grifting is.
Grifting. Yeah. Okay, I thought there was another term for it, but okay, like something.
No, it's well, there's specific kinds of schemes, but none of them really attach to this. Like
grifting sounds right.
Yeah, the closest you could come up with is like if you wanted to do something other than grifting, it was like a Ponzi scheme. Mm-hmm. But even then, like the idea of a Ponzi scheme is that you're investing your money in the intention of being able to reclaim your money later via large investment bonuses. Here, it's you're dumping your money into a product and hoping that will turn some kind of a profit. So it's more like snake oil salesman type shit. It's the grift.
Mm-hmm.
You see it all the fucking time.
So what is Atari? How is it that Atari has managed? I mean, yeah, you said the investors and coming out and doing all this grifting and all that nonsense is what's keeping them afloat. But how is it that they are still able to, not get a lot of these people to suddenly, hit the refund button? I mean, what is stopping me from calling my bank and saying, "Hey, I'd like to cancel or get my payment refunded for something I used my Visa on like 2 years ago"?
I don't necessarily know if you could dispute a transaction that far out. You could, but it would probably take a lot of time and effort.
There's a lot of
sunk cost fallacy too there.
Yeah, there's a lot of extra paperwork and a lot of extra nonsensical things that you have to go through. Not just through your bank, but also through, at that point, the bank would have to get approval for that sort of stuff through like the Federal Reserve. And there's like a statute, it's just like crime. There's a statute of limitations on how far back you can actually dispute funds going in and out of your bank account, because eventually the bank is just going to be, look, we got our money, we're good, So it's just a matter of like, you could. It's always something you could say is like, hey, I want to dispute this. Like, but it's like, yeah, no, it's too old. We can't touch it. It's been reconciled out of our bank account. There's nothing we can do about that.
But in the event of like, let's say, I mean, they have there's like when it comes to certain like things, like there's always like like you said, there's a time limit. Like I'm not sure if I'm 100% correct on this. Like, let's say if a hospital, their billing agency keeps hitting you for like, let's say a $50 bill that you claim that you shouldn't be hit with. I think they say the statute of limitation is what, 5 years, and then no longer you're responsible for that bill or something like that.
Well, that's medical
That's
bills.
I mean, in biblical
different.
bills, but like, is there like is it the similar situation when it comes to like trying to get your money back on something that you've paid, like, and especially let's say if you put $300 plus on this item,
No.
like a huge
So like
purchase.
there's a big difference. So like if it's an active open bill, like a bill, there's a difference because at that point there's like collection laws and collections that actually occur for a product in this case. So unless you're willing to actively pursue a collection agency uh, outside of your own personal time and funds to attempt to collect money back on a product that doesn't exist and hasn't existed but is still in active development, possibility of anybody actually taking on that requirement, that request to actually get money back for something like that is pretty slim. Not a lot of people are going to take that collection.
In most cases, credit agencies are going to generally only allow for a dispute for about 30 to 60 days. PayPal allows for 180 days, but even then, we're talking 2 years, 3 years in some cases. Most payment organizations are gonna say, no, go fuck yourself. It's been way too long for us to even attempt to dispute that. At this point, you would probably have to go through Indiegogo. And while Indiegogo may attempt to do something, like, they don't have the money, they gave the money to the content creator. They gave the money to...
it was marked as funded, and so they gave it to whoever is in charge.
Well, the thing is that Indiegogo gets the money regardless. Because they
right,
don't
but
have
then
the same...
they give the money to... At Indiegogo, yes, you get the money regardless of how well it's funded, which is the reason why grifters tend to stick with Indiegogo over
versus Kickstarter,
because no matter how much money you get that money. But it's at the end of the day, what you're talking about here is a case of there is no legal onus to... What's the word I'm looking for here? There is no legal onus for the companies in question to do anything about this because, and this is important, when you are putting your money into something where you are crowdfunding, you are doing so with the understanding that you may not get any money back. You may not get anything.
You may not get a product. You may not get a refund. You may not get. You're just going to get space. That's it.
Right. Now there will be some cases. There'll be some cases where the companies in question attempt to do something for the people making this content, like the people who are backing these things. They'll try and sell the products to another company who will attempt to do something financially. What's the word I'm looking for here? They will attempt to sell it to another company that's financially solvent and will actually produce the product, or they will attempt to get some type of money back to the consumers. But by and large, no, they are not obligated to give you shit. And a lot of people kind of need to understand that unless the company that you're dealing with is definitely reputable and has produced things before that have been successful, you absolutely should not be trusting these people to make a product that is going to end up in your... You absolutely should not be trusting that you are going to get this thing, and the money that you invest should be invested with that in mind. Like, I straight up got fucked on one of the Kickstarters that I did, and I think they've managed to sell it off to a company that will create it, but like the Kickstarter's been open for 2.5 years, and they've done basically nothing. They sent me some like PDFs of the rule sets, but the reason why you
Oh.
backed it was for the fucking miniatures. So fuck you.
Mm.
But they've
Sure.
sold it off to another company that may actually like make it, which great. But I'm still of the impression that I threw that money into the street, and I was willing to make that investment under the understanding that I may not get this. You can't make this kind of investment and expect that you are going to get a product. This is a risk.
Yep. In regards to, let's say, what's the outcome? Do you think the Atari VCS is ever going to see the light of day at this point? It has been delayed again to, I believe, next year. When did they say it was delayed till? Yeah, 2020 is their intended release date. So, does it see the light of day? Does it fizzle? Do they keep collecting? What do you think?
I think the real question here is, do we care?
Oh, we definitely don't care.
So, like,
I mean, the only thing I care about really is that there's people out there that are dumb enough that are going to still keep funding this thing or are still holding out hope.
I mean,
and if anything, we really need to educate these people.
Well, see, I think that's the thing. Like certain people will always hold out hope against something that's going to be something they want. Like, there's always going to be somebody who's like, no, I've spent $1,000 on this. I'm going to see it through to the end. I don't care. I need the thing that I paid for, because that's just how close knit they are to their money. But in the long run, you're right. Like Mark said, like there's no. We live in such a society where instant gratification is such a positive thing now. Like it's a Star Citizen. That's another topic for another show. The idea of being able to guarantee that you're going to get something that you paid for is so ingrained in society at this point that not getting something infuriates people. But like at the same time, it's like, that's the decision you made. You decided that this was where the money that you were going to spend was going to be, and if you don't get anything from it because it ended up being a grift, that's a lesson you have to learn. You got to take that with you. You take the L, you move on to the next round. That's just how you got to live it, because at that point you've done it. That's exactly what's already happened. So you have to find a way to, either continue to hope or move on and find something else, because at that point that's really the only two options you've got.
What if now what about, let's say, the people who keep clinging to this thing, and they're sitting there saying, hey, look, there's the Amico, and or there's the other half of the people who are like, oh, look at the Coleco. Those are the two kind of camps that keep coming to mind right now of people who seem to look at the Atari VCS in such a weird light. I think I got
one word for those people. Oh yeah. Like, is this really where you want it to go? Because that's where it's going. Like, it's basically Archer all over. Do you want ants? This is how you get ants. Do you want Ouya? This is how you get Ouya.
Yeah, I don't even if the thing comes out, like literally, who cares? This isn't like, we're not having a conversation about this because we care about it. We're having a conversation about it because it's a dumb shit show and it's hilarious.
Yeah,
it is true.
We laugh at shit shows and we beat dead horses. That's kind of the thing that we do.
That's our repertoire.
Yeah, like it's we're not talking about it because it's relevant. We're not talking about it because there's going to be some type of long-term impact on it. We're talking about it because it's funny. And like, this is the thing. It's, if you are defending this thing, like, okay, more power to you, I guess. I don't care. And if that is the particular hill you want to die on, more power to you, I guess. I can't be bothered to care. Like, this is for funsies for me. Like, this is a dumb thing that was made by people who are grifting, and if it continues to exist beyond what we know of it now, I will be fucking surprised.
Speaking of things that you actually do care about, though, Mark.
Oh, good.
Please Tell us how you feel about the situation with China and Blizzard.
Yeah, well, here it comes.
All right,
This is all you,
let's
buddy.
establish the background first, just to make it easier. So, Blizzard ran some type of Hearthstone Grandmasters tournament over the weekend, and a Hong Kong Hearthstone player named Blitz Chung won the tournament.
Mhm.
During an after the fact interview with the commentators, he put on a mask reminiscent of or styled after the masks of Hong Kong protesters and essentially asked for Hong Kong to stop being dicked over by the remainder of China. It was a thing. The commentators were like, "Oh shit," and literally tried to hide under the damn desk because they didn't want to be involved in it because they knew where this was going.
And let's, as just a quick interjection, the base translation of what the commentators were attempting to do as they saw Blitzchung putting the ski goggles and mask on was ducking their heads behind their monitors, and one of them was continuing to try to keep the topic on Hearthstone, and the other commentator just said, "No, stop, it's done," and pushed him down to make him duck so that they didn't actually have to look at the camera.
I'd like to point out
and then
real
he did
quick,
it.
those guys were fired.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Oh, we're getting to that.
Oh,
we're getting to that.
we're getting to that.
Okay.
So he like basically they got everybody involved got fucked in the whole thing. Blizzard removed Blitzchung from the Hearthstone Grandmasters, rescinded all of the prize money that he was promised for winning, and suspended him from pro play for 1 year after that interview. Their specific announcement was that upon further review, they found it violated the Hearthstone Grandmasters official competition rules section 6.1 semicolon O, and is individual behavior which does not represent Blizzard or Hearthstone esports. They actually cite it as saying engaging in any act that in Blizzard's sole discretion brings you into public disrepute, offends a portion or group of the public, or otherwise damages Blizzard's image will result in removal from Grandmasters and reduction of the player's prize total to $0 in addition to other remedies which may be provided for under the handbook and Blizzard's web terms. Now, basically what they're saying here is you did a thing that damaged our reputation and put you in a publicly negative light, so you don't get any money. Now, that particular clause is kind of a thing that's going to happen no matter what. Every company is going to have something like that involved with prize winnings and things of that nature. You know, if you end up becoming some kind of horrible public embarrassment after the fact, the companies want to be able to distance themselves from you in a way that doesn't damage their particular brand. Fine. This particular circumstance is very much not what that is necessarily meant for. But it's also worth noting that Blizzard also fired both of the Hearthstone casters working both of whom, as you noted, literally ducked under their fucking desks during the interview and had no idea that this was going to this was literally a gross overreaction against two dudes who had nothing to do with this, did not know this was happening, and did not want to be involved in it. They literally fired as collateral damage.
Yep.
Blizzard also disabled comments on that particular news post from the person Rod Breslow, who initially highlighted all of this on Twitter. He indicated comments to the news are normally open, and from scrolling back through hundreds of posts, this is the only time they have disabled comments on news posts. He also includes the comment, "Can't imagine why," which it gets worse. So, in the wake of this, people have been actively fucking agitated, going so far as to, in many cases, say that they're not going to participate in Blizzard esports, they're not going to stream Blizzard games. The Republican lawmakers have gotten on board with this and are essentially calling out Blizzard for doing this. It's a huge mess. Even the Blizzard subreddit shut down for a period of time because they just did not want to get involved in this conversation. And hey, the in the trending category on Twitter right now, literally right now for me, the number one trending thing in Twitter is hashtag Blizzard boycott. So that's not working out so great for them. But here's the thing. For a lot of people, this is probably going to come back to the question of what in the fuck is going on with Hong Kong, and why is this such a contentious issue? Well, this is kind of complicated, but I'm going to try and boil it down in the simplest way I possibly can. So understand that anything that I'm saying here is grossly oversimplified and may not necessarily reflect everything that you need to know to grasp the full geopolitical effects and consequences that go on with all of this.
I don't know. I think Podjack just got it right there on the head.
They done fucked up. Yes.
That's a great TLDR, but please continue.
So, the thing that you guys got to understand is that Hong Kong is not part of China exactly. They were a British colony back in 1842 until 1997. Yes, the British government owned Hong Kong until fucking 1997.
A little over 100 years.
Yeah, and most of us were alive during the time period when Hong Kong was part of the British Empire.
Mm-hmm.
So in 97, Hong Kong gets ceded back to China, but they're not immediately shoved in as a Chinese state. Because Hong Kong, rightly so, was like, Mark is now banned from China. I don't want to fucking go there anyway. Plus, I'd be afraid that they'd fucking kill me. So, but here's the thing. So, Hong Kong did not want to be ruled in the same way that the rest of China was ruled. And with good reason, China's rule sucks. Like, a lot. China as a country is like... And I say this as an American citizen where my president is one of the dumbest motherfuckers on God's green earth. China's government is among the dirt worst. Like, they literally... A lot of their business models are based around the idea of just stealing shit from other developed countries.
Mm-hmm.
They and Russia are kind of sort of involved in a thing where they're attempting to undermine the banking technology SWIFT, which is an American-owned invention, where people do wire transfers, things of that nature. They're trying to undermine and get a Chinese and Russia-backed version of it going. And coincidentally, around the time that they were trying to push this into action, nation-state actors that were not necessarily identified as being part of any group, but had ties to the Russian and Chinese government, started attacking the SWIFT system. It's almost as if there is some type of direct relation between the Chinese government and the horrible things that happen that might benefit them. Also, their current president really hates being compared to Winnie the Pooh, to the point where he literally fucking, his government literally fucking had a video game publishing house just removed from being able to publish video games because of it.
Mm-hmm.
If you look up the game Devotion, I think is the name of it, there is a whole fucking big deal about that, including the fact that its Steam user score was mixed for a long time because being horribly review bombed by the Chinese.
Mm-hmm.
So when Hong Kong was told, China wants you back, they were like, we don't want to be involved in China necessarily. So when they were brought back into the Chinese government, they transferred to China as a special administrative region. What this means is Hong Kong maintains separate governing and economic systems from that of mainland China under the principle of one country, two systems.
Mm-hmm.
Now, they could have probably asked like Thailand or the place where the Dalai Lama lives, like or lived. I can't think of the name of it. Mountainous region. I can't think of the fucking name.
Tibet.
Of it. Tibet. Thank you.
Tibet.
They could have asked those people how that was going to work out, but they were like, whatever. We don't really have a choice here. Fine, we'll go back to China so long as we get this sort of special. Okay. Here's the thing. For a while, that's been going okay. Like, there haven't been any dramatic issues. But in the past couple of months, China has been trying to get a bill passed for extradition between Hong Kong and China. Extradition is literally what you think it is. It's the ability to take somebody from a location that is outside of their governing sphere of influence and send them back there. So, for example, the U.S. has an extradition treaty with Canada. If a criminal flees to Canada, the U.S. can request that the Canadian government extradite this person back to the U.S., and they will do so. Now, when you have a government that is reasonably transparent and trustworthy, extradition clauses between governments are standard practice. So you can understand why the people of Hong Kong were like, no fucking way, we absolutely do not want a goddamn extradition treaty with China, you motherfuckers. So that's been going on for about
Give or take, yeah.
Now the Chinese government has
Sorry.
The fuck did you do?
I was just trying to change region. I didn't think it would make everything shit to bed. Because you
Sorry
were
about that.
you were breaking up real bad, so
You completely lost Jan there, it looks like.
Oh yeah,
I
no.
lost both of you, so I just
No, my Discord ate shit too. It's fine.
Okay. But yeah, so the thing is that this has been going on for 4 months now. Because a lot of people who had been a part of emigrated to Hong Kong because like they didn't want to be ruled by China anymore. So now they're sort of in this position where they're starting to see China do the whole iron fist enforcement of the whole situation, which they had up until recently been of the impression that this was not going to happen. And the Chinese government is predictably responding with violence. The major concern at this point is that in 2047, the current constitutional arrangements running out, and Hong Kong could straight up just become a part of China, governed like any other city in China. And for people of Hong Kong who were not necessarily bristling under Chinese rule up to this point, they're suddenly seeing this as, oh God, this is what they're gonna fucking do to us now. We're gonna get fucked on this. So, needless to say, the folks in Hong Kong are deeply displeased about this whole idea. And China is now horribly enforcing their legal right to run the show in the worst ways possible, to the point where people in Hong Kong are either protesting or looking at getting the fuck out by any means necessary. So it is a shit show. Here's the thing. We've all heard the horror stories about China. They specifically limit the ability for their people to get access to internet information outside of the Chinese internet. Like the information that their people can see is very limited. They are for all intents and purposes North Korea without the overt dictatorshipness. China is not a great country at this point.
China's got a big case of Big Brother syndrome.
A bit, yes. There've actually been attempts by them to create social ranking, like Orwellian states, yes. Social media stuff where they actually like rank your societal value. It's
yikes.
Yeah, like that fucking thing that they were the episode of Black Mirror was about, where the people were actively ranked by their public perception on social media. It's actually a thing that China has been sort of discussing / experimenting with.
I wonder how much longer until China becomes, just like that those cities in the book The Giver.
Well, here's the problem. China is also one of the largest markets in the world right now. So you're very much in a position where if you are a government, you don't want anything to really do with China. But if you are a business, you want everything to do with China.
2 million people never
So
been wrong.
yeah, so it's they have one of the largest economies available. So we are starting to heavily see every single business decision dictated by whether or not something will. So you get situations where Marvel movies will have characters put into them that can be very easily edited out so as not to offend the Chinese government. And the plots are structured in such a way so that, the Chinese viewers don't need to give a shit so long as they can watch this movie and, see something cool happening in it. More and more movies are being structured in a general to appeal to the Chinese market. And other businesses are basically they're not intending to, but they're kind of sort of letting China dictate their business policies. And it's not necessarily obvious. In some cases, you don't run afoul of any of this shit. And again, here's the thing. If you don't pay attention to geopolitical stuff that's been going on, it doesn't matter. You don't fucking care. It's just kind of, well, this is a thing that comes with the cost of doing business. But then you see, like last year, there was a whole to-do because a Chinese actress had some type of a public issue and was basically put under house arrest for a fucking year.
Tonight, Jan is going to be substituted with an orange tabby.
Loud, angry Kate.
It's the Cade unit. So here is where the Blizzard connection comes in. Blizzard has been trying to make esports a thing for years. For years at this point. And they have generally not succeeded. Overwatch is kind of sort of treated like an esport-ish, but it is not especially well regarded in that realm. Nothing that Blizzard has made has been extremely successful as an esport except for StarCraft and to a lesser extent Warcraft 3, but only because somebody else made Warcraft 3
Right.
So Blizzard is desperately trying to make Fetch a thing, and other people are like, we don't really want Fetch to be a thing. Gretchen, get the fuck out of here. So it's a situation where whenever this is something that they can do something with, they're gonna get into bed with whoever they got to get into bed with. Now, I mean, we see this with other companies all the time, and it's not as big of a deal, right? League of Legends made multiple content releases and video updates specifically targeted toward the South Korean marketplace because South Korea is a huge market for them. That's fine. We don't generally have any problems with South Korea. China, as we have established from the previous 15 minutes of me talking, are dicks.
Oh, yeah.
So what happens is, when China gets pissed off, you know about it because companies do stuff they would generally not do. Which brings us back to what the fuck just happened with Hearthstone. Blizzard was very much put into a position where they were either told directly or it was inferred to them that allowing somebody to protest the Hong Kong riots, or protest the Hong Kong situation, would be bad for their business. So they took it upon themselves to punish literally everybody involved to a point far beyond any kind of reasonable behavior. Because they didn't want to potentially sacrifice any business relationship they have with China. They didn't want to lose that money that was coming in because that's a big fucking market. Now,
Huge.
we don't know if Blizzard was told by China that this needed to happen, or if they made that decision, but it really doesn't matter. The fallout for this is much swift and consistent and terrible.
Oh yes.
Again, the Blizzard subreddit shut down for hours after the fact, and when it came back up, was covered in a deluge of shit from people expressing opinions about it. Multiple different articles have come out discussing the negative effects here. Republican lawmakers are shitting the bed about this whole situation, and like Blizzard basically kowtowing to China because this is a thing that Trump is very much passionate about. Like he is very disagreeable with the idea of China getting the better of us from a business perspective. Regardless of whether or not his attempts at dealing with it have been effective, this is a thing that the Republican side of the aisle in government is going to be very interested in and is going to negatively respond to. So this is very much going to be a story that's going to go on for months, for literal months, because the government is not going to let this shit go.
In the end, everyone loses.
Including Activision Blizzard. So, as of right now, because I've sort of been keeping track on it just because this is sort of just like a thing that I like to watch. As of current time, and now we're looking at after hours market because obviously the Nasdaq is closed, has been for a couple of hours now. Over the last day, the original starting point yesterday closed at 55.41 and is now currently after at close is down at 54.13, which is a drop of 2.31% on the stock,
which is not good,
and has seen an after hours consistent drop of an additional 0.11% and is now currently looking to open at 54.07 tomorrow morning. This is a huge problem. You can actually see where the stock started, and as the news progressively got out about what happened, and more people started sort of hearing what was going on, not only did the stock drop, but the subreddit shut down, and then it came back up. And part of that deluge of shit was close to, I think they said 2,600 individual started posts from Reddit users showing screenshots of them canceling or deleting multiple Blizzard products from their system, showing off support for Hong Kong, showing off you did a bad thing, lots and lots of dirty words that I'm like, we all know what they are, so it's not that big of a deal. We're also adults here, and I mean, yeah, we're adults here. We see them all the time. But the bottom line here is that what has happened with Blizzard and what has happened with this whole situation has basically taken a very large vocal group of people, not just gamers, but Democrats and Republicans alike, business analysts, stock analysts, day traders. People are shouting sell, and that's bad. I'm reminded of a comic that came out a few months ago when Bungie was released from their contract and became their own studio and released from Activision. And it was a 2-panel comic. The first panel is a picture of a character with Bungie over his head and a second character next to it that said game journalism. And it's just like, oh man, how's the feel to finally... And as you turn, you see the second panel, which is the Bungie character looking at the burning Activision Blizzard building and said, no, don't stop me. I need to go back in. Blizzard's still in there. It's a shit show. It's a literal, actual shit show. There were... it pains me to even think that this is a thing that actually happened, but it's been reported by multiple different places, including through like Associated Press and CNN, internal conflicts within the actual company. This has literally split the company in half. There are people who went outside the building. If for those of you who don't know about it, because most of us are Blizzard fans here, but for most of you, those of you who don't know about it, they have a massive statue out front of the Blizzard building that's been there for years, and it shows their core values imprinted into the actual ground. Well, one of those core values is think globally, and another one of those other values is basically like speak your mind. And employees went out and covered the values, the core values, with paper, just to bury them. Because apparently there's a group of people within the company that feel like the core values of the company have just been walked all over. And the fact that there are people that are defending this decision has put a sizable group of people in the company out into the cold, because they're just like, how could you support this? Why would you support this? We understand what the message is, and removing him from maybe that tournament makes sense. Nixing part of his winnings from that tournament makes sense, but to remove him for a full year and to cite this ridiculous clause that had up to this point never been utilized. And there's been some pretty weird shit that's happened in Overwatch, so whatever, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, this sort of thing is generally meant to be something where if somebody becomes like they beat their significant other, or
XQC,
or like they
I mean,
they fucking like take their pants off in the middle of Times Square, or some ridiculous shit like that. Like, this is the sort of thing that's meant to allow a company to distance themselves from somebody if they become some type of public pariah. And here's the thing: this is only an issue in specifically. This is only an issue if you are sympathetic to the Chinese government. This is like this is something that this sort of a clause is generally not meant for. And the fact that it is being enforced in this way is very specifically to appease the Chinese government. Again, we're talking about a fucking government where the leader of it is so goddamn embarrassing that a video game made by a Taiwanese released by a Taiwanese publisher, Red Candle Games, got the company censored to fuck because of a joke that was in like 30 seconds of a 10-hour. That is how fucking absurd this is.
And really, and I don't want to use the word ironic because I don't think that really fits in this, but it's definitely intriguing that not 24 hours happened. Blizzard made a huge announcement and released additional content video for the 8.3 patch for World of Warcraft Battle for Azeroth, which a lot of people have been waiting for, and has shown that they are finally starting to listen to a lot of the game's fans and are trying to do what they can to at least keep the fire from completely smoldering out what's left of the company in terms of the game itself, by changing a lot of things that are quality of life improvements, and announcing 2 new allied races, of which a lot of people have been asking for some and maybe not so much the other, but what are you going to do? But there's a lot of positivity that was coming out of the camp, and then this happens, and then this is their response to that action, and it has created a very interesting dichotomy amongst not just the fans but also employees, as is blatantly obvious, where they feel like their core values from decades have been literally just like the board of directors or whoever's in charge right now has literally walked up to each employee's desk, pulled their pants down, and taken a nice steaming pile dump on their desks because of what they basically decided to do today. And while I think that might be a little bit of an overreaction, I feel like that's generally how a lot of the people that work there and a lot of the fans are currently feeling right now. like that, Blizzard has basically taken a giant steaming dump on your desk about this specific situation, in that there's a lot of really heavy political issues currently going on in this area. Someone who feels very passionate about it because he's from there came out to say, hey, I'm pro Hong Kong, not pro China. And Blizzard's like, you're all fucking done. Two casters who had literally nothing to do with it, who had no idea that this was going to happen, watched him put the ski goggles on and started kind of giggling and are like, oh no, oh, is he doing what I think he's doing? Oh shit, I think he's doing. And then he puts the mask on and they start ducking their heads behind their monitor. Like, I've watched the VOD. Like, the VOD's gone. Blizzard Taiwan pulled the entire VOD. It's gone. So the only way you're going to find it is going to be, third party through Twitter or through some other social media site right now. But these kids were like ducking their heads. They're like, oh God, this is it. This is how we die. This is because as soon as it happened, he shouted, he blew his mic out. It happened. These guys were like, oh, okay. And then they instantly cut to commercial. And then it shows the video of what these kids were actually doing after the fact. And they're like, ha ha, oh, we're doomed. This is all bad. This is all really bad. I can't believe he just did that. And the shitstorm just occurred. That was literally the eye of the storm. And it just kept getting worse and worse and worse as the day progressed. And it's been, I think at this point, the hashtag has changed from just hashtag Blizzard to hashtag boycott Blizzard, because it's superseded by far. I think it's like, I was trying to get it to pull up to see exactly where it is in the actual rankings. I'm going to try to grab it right now while I'm thinking about it. Under trending. Anyway, long story short, this is a shitstorm. It's ridiculous. It's crazy. I don't understand why this had to happen the way it had to happen, other than Blizzard likes money. That's apparently Chinese.
It's currently the second highest trending thing, right behind AEW Dark.
Oh, that might just be a personal trend. I'm looking at all-time trending.
If you're looking for just, I guess at the moment, I guess within the last hour, I guess that's how it's ranked. I'm trying to find out. Try and find it. Yeah. I'm trying to find it for you.
I think at this point it's dropped off the trending list. Like the top 3 or 4 happen to be like hip hop awards and Justin Verlander and some other stuff that's going on. So yeah, like it's kind of fallen down at this point, just because obviously it's not as huge. It is still trending within the United States, but it's definitely died down from the 35,000 tweets that it's been over the last 4,000. But yeah, no, it's still, this is a big deal. A lot of people are basically saying, yeah, if you're going to support China, then we're not going to support you financially. Like, this is the stock drops, the ramifications, the issues, the people bitching on Twitter, the people bitching on social media in general. It's all going to blow over in a few days, because that's how this kind of stuff works. But where we are and where other people are generally more exposed to it, because this is kind of what we do. We research this kind of stuff. For stuff like this isn't something that we're just going to walk away from right away. We're gonna keep an eye on it. We're gonna see what's going on.
Somebody took the Blizzard logo and just put it on a red flag, looking like the China flag.
Oh, there's a lot of that. There's
and
the
I
Chinese
think
flag one. There's one with May.
It's very much worth being clear here. I think this is almost certainly an Activision decision, because Activision is, the big boss as far as all of this goes. I'm not saying Blizzard does or doesn't agree with it, but I just wanted to be clear. I think this is a from the top decision going all the way. And I don't know how they didn't think that this was going to be a big deal, but imagine you were in a situation where you were in the US and something like this happened on some level or another. even if the person who said or did the thing was in some way punished,
Mm-hmm.
like even if you believe that political activism should not be performed in these situations. I don't agree with you, but like maybe I can sort of nod and go fine, to each their own or whatever. Let's say you believe that political activism should not be, done in this way. All right,
Mhm.
whatever, agree to disagree. Here's the thing. They fired the caster. There was no reason, literally zero reason, objectively, for the two casters to be fired. And if you think there was a reason, you are objectively wrong.
Mm-hmm.
If there was any reason for them to be terminated, it had nothing to do with what happened during this event. They did not do anything that would merit being terminated. And I'm saying this way because if you are the sort of person who thinks that this is the case, I am speaking at the level to which I think you are capable of mentally comprehending the words coming out of my mouth. In other words, if you think those two people deserved to be terminated, you are deeply, deeply stupid.
Mm-hmm. Like everything about this whole situation is just like, I think you could pretty much just copy and paste our entire conversation and put it next to the definition of shitstorm,
Yeah,
because that's
we've covered
basically
a number of
what we've
shitstorm,
got as a.
and we've covered a number of shitstorms, and this one is probably the biggest one we've covered so far.
Well, I mean, I'm pretty sure we know who broke it this year for our awards, don't we?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah,
Oh yeah.
that is 100% the good job breaking it hero award.
Oh yeah.
Asshole status achieved is still going
for
somewhere
grabs.
else. It's not up for grabs.
No, it's
It's
not.
not.
No.
It's not up for grabs, but it's not going to
It's a
Activision
solid.
Blizzard.
We have
It's a
strong
solid-
contenders,
it's
It's
but
nice.
there's a clear
It's nice
winner.
to know. I feel like there's a clear winner. I feel like there's a clear winner. But it's nice to know that in November we've got at least those two. In October, excuse me, we've got at least those two awards out of the way.
Right.
Because usually we're having to scrub through the internet just to see, okay, what kind
That's
of
right,
dumbasses
fine.
did we have to deal with last year? I can't remember.
No, now all we have to do is find other contenders, and we don't even need to. We can just be like, look.
No, I think we have those pretty much locked down at this point.
Yeah, we could just be like, look, does it really matter? This was always going to win. Fuck off. You know?
All
yeah.
right.
No,
Well,
for sure.
so
It's
let's get off
everything
this.
you just
Let's get off
it's just
this.
you pretty much clench your teeth and inhale very quickly through your teeth. Just ooh, that sucking noise. We all know what that means.
Well, let's go from
I wanna
sucking
talk about
to something
happy
nice.
things.
Let's go talk.
Yes,
let's
let's
talk
talk about
about
happy
something
things.
nice before we end the night. So, Sony came out with some great news. I guess you
Is it really great news?
Well, we know definitely that the PlayStation 5 will now be coming out in holiday season 2020. Price and everything else is to be determined. However, they did give us a good number of talking points to go about, starting off with the fact that the system will be a solid-state drive. I can already tell you that that right there is
It'll
going to...
have a solid state drive. It's not. They're not just going to ship you a hard drive and be like, "Hey, here you go."
Right.
No.
I just want to be clear about that, like from a language perspective, like it's not that it is a solid state drive; it's that there will be a solid state drive within it.
Yes.
Mhm.
Pardon my, missing a few words in that sentence then.
No, that's fine. I just wanted to be clear. That's all.
Okay.
Like
yeah.
it's very much a phobia thing for me personally because I've worked in help desk for so many years, and you get those people who think that the monitor is called the computer,
Oof.
and you're just like,
Ah.
oh.
Mm-hmm.
So I just wanted to be clear. That's all.
Okay, but yeah, the system will come shipped with a solid-state drive embedded, and that games will be on 100 gigabyte discs with an improved 4K Blu-ray player inside the system. Right then and there, you can tell that this system is going to be very expensive, considering that a 500 gigabyte solid-state drive is still approaching almost $200.
It depends. We have to keep in mind that Sony has their own internal hardware development wing, and their own internal R&D, so they can afford to bundle all of this stuff together in ways that could not be feasible for a company that's renting all of this stuff externally. Like if we remember, the days where Sony was competing against Sega and Nintendo, and during the PlayStation 2 era, during the PlayStation era, they were able to do things much cheaper because they developed all of this stuff in-house. The PlayStation 2 was a huge success in part because it was a cheap DVD player. It was, in a lot than most standard home DVD players were at that, because Sony basically made the DVD technology. So there will probably be some type of price point on this that may be a little high-ish, but I wouldn't think it's going to be too expensive because Sony has their own in-house groups that develop hard drives. Sony owns the Blu-ray technology. They almost certainly are cutting every possible cost they can to get this out at a reasonable price point that is still profitable. I would not be surprised if it launches at like PS4 price points of like $399, $499.
Yeah, that would make sense.
That's a very big price point. Or that's a very big wishful price point. I would like to see them, but I think the more realistic one is probably going to be like a $499. But we're going to
$499 is probably reasonable. But again, like that was a price point that both consoles came out at during this console generation.
And like I would expect dropped.
Yeah, I would expect that $499 is probably the highest we're going to expect to see.
And even then,
if it goes any higher than that, I will be absolutely astonished.
Yeah, and even then, the only reason I would see it being that high in the first place would probably just because they have a larger drive in it. So like we probably have like a 2 terabyte in it at that point.
Okay.
Because I see like a baseline of because at this point, let's be real honest here. At this point, there will be only one moving part in the entire system, and that's the actual Blu-ray drive. Everything else that's going to be in there, we're not talking spindle drives, we're not talking SATA, we're not talking, baseline. We're talking most likely NVMe, PCI embedded, probably not removable.
There
USB
better be more than
3.0 expansion
in there. They better have a fan in that damn thing.
Well.
What I mean?
Yes.
But you understand what I'm getting at. Like the system itself is going to have like fans, but I'm talking about like no moving part, like the media portion of the actual system, like the thing that has the OS built into it will be most likely some form of PCIe NVMe stick that's either on a plug or embedded into the actual motherboard of the device. So in a case like this, you're looking at $100 maybe for a 500 gig. So that makes us look at a $399 price point. Seems legitimate to me. I feel like that's our baseline is going to most likely be that $399 point. Seeing anything higher than that means you're just getting a bigger hard drive.
Okay. Some of the things they're also doing are mostly big changes to the user interface. Like they have ways they want to like improve its functionality, like being able to like get information a lot easier, as opposed to like, waiting for something to happen or having to close menus to acquire the information through other menus and stuff like that. So they want to make information a hell of a lot more easier to access. They want to make it so that even though you still have to install games, they want to give you the ability to, I don't know how this is exactly going to work, but give you the option of how to install the game, like multiplayer or single player, like separately installed or something like that. I'm not sure how that would work.
So it basically gives you more granular control of the actual installation. So what they're saying here is, at least just based on the article that I'm reading here, they'll be installed from the disk, which we've already done with the PS4, so that's nothing new. But it gives you the ability to control what parts of games are being installed or uninstalled. So this harkens back to a very specific type of installation setup that you do with PC games, or more like productivity software. Yeah. So like I'm installing Office onto my computer, but I only want Word, Excel, and PowerPoint. I don't want Outlook. I don't want projects. I don't want Access. I just want these 3 programs. So it gives you the ability to only select the things you want from the disk installed, and that's what it installs to the actual hardware.
So, in
So
other
this is
words,
not something that console users are going to be very familiar with, but it's something that PC users who've been using software for decades are completely familiar with and understand exactly how that functions.
So in other words, this sounds back. This harkens back to the Wii U with Xenoblade Chronicles X, where you could play the game, but you can go to the store and download up to about 8 gigs worth of data to improve the loading of the game.
Sort of, but I would look at it from the perspective of they're probably going to offer you the option of installing individual components based on what you're playing the game for. So, for example, let's say you are going to be playing the new Modern Warfare, and you have, like, you're only really going to play the single player campaign and like the single player modes and not get a dick around with everything else. They're basically saying you can install the assets that are needed for these particular parts of the game, but you don't have to install the whole entire damn game.
Right.
So if I'm somebody who's only playing multiplayer in Call of Duty, I can just install that to the hard drive to make my multiplayer experience as smooth as possible, and then leave the single player assets, the zombies assets, and whatever the hell else on the disc, because I don't give a shit about those and I'm never playing them.
Exactly.
Okay. The only other couple of things that I see that are worth mentioning, really, first is that the controllers will be USB Type-C, so I guess every company is now going universal on the USB-C.
I will touch on that. I will touch on that really quick. As I was reading another article about some stuff that was actually brought up, I believe it was Google got dinged about something about how they're telling Android makers, like people that make Android phones, that USB Type-C is the only thing that Google is going to accept for Google devices. So all Google phones going forward will only be USB Type-C. USB Type-C has already been a PC standard for a number of years now, and it's looking like at this point, USB Type-C is kind of where everything is going for connectivity. It's fast, it's easy, it's generic, I guess is the right word for it. It's a simple connector that a lot more companies have found is not just fast, but is also secure in terms of how it fits into your device. It doesn't create confusion as far as what actually is being used when it's being plugged in. Everyone knows, oh, that's this. And there's so many other different types of USB at this point. To see something go strictly this way makes perfect sense, because like I said, when 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 about 5 years ago, Dell of all companies made the decision to remove their long-standing desktop connectivity for their laptops, the actual dock mechanisms. For years, they had a bottom connection. So basically, they had this chip that was on the bottom of their laptops that connected directly into this massive plug-and-play dock that had all of your ports attached to the back of it, so that you could add additional monitors and keyboard and mouse and dock your laptop. And anyone that's used laptops in the last decade probably knows what I'm talking about. About 5 or 6 years ago, Dell made the decision to nix the ePort, which was what they called it, is that chip on the bottom, and go strictly Thunderbolt / USB Type-C, and didn't look back, because Dell was on the forefront of understanding, like, this is the technology that everyone's going to be using. It's faster, it's more versatile, it does way more than anything that we've had in the past has done, and they ditched it, and everyone's like, why are you doing this? And then all of a sudden, HPI, I might change that, HPI and Lenovo were both like, oh shit, we should probably do the same. Because they understood that the way the technology was moving and the way USB-C works, something like having USB on the bottom of your phone and being able to use the same technology all the way through all of your electronics makes a lot more sense than trying to diversify your portfolio of connectors and confusing and frustrating your customer base by basically saying everything is universally just this now. It's the same idea as what they did with HDMI and DP. They're trying to find a way to universalize connectivity, and this is, USB-C makes the most sense.
Okay. In regards to also the controller, I mean, there isn't much really being said about it because it's only an early build that the guy got to, from Wired, managed to play around with. And he says the only most notable thing was that it feels like a PS4 controller, but in regards to the triggers, apparently there is a form of resistance being applied to the triggers, to the analog triggers, which, like, to put this in perspective, it's imagine playing like Cruising USA in the arcades, and as you're going over the bumps, you feel the wheel jerk and move around, just regardless of how firmly you're holding it. That's you're feeling resistance to all the bumps in the road you're feeling. That's kind of what you're going to be feeling as well as you're pressing down on those triggers is what I'm getting.
It's a haptic thing. It's feedback.
Yeah.
I don't know how well that's going to work, just because I feel like that sort of technology invested into the controller is either going to be prohibitively expensive or is going to break very quickly. But I will be interested to see how that works out in the long run.
Yep. And of course, they're saying that Blue Point Games is already making one of the first games for the system, so big whoop. But aside from that, I mean, I'm sure this is just the first wave of a whole bunch more of information that's going to be coming our way within the coming months. When they're going to do the full reveal, we're not sure. Probably closer to E3, or they're going to do another one of those PlayStation.
It'll be a state of play. It'll hands
state
down
of
be a
play.
state of play. Sony has already cemented the idea in everyone's heads that they're not going to do trade shows anymore. Like, they're just, if they do, it'll only be as Nintendo has been doing it. They will have a physical presence for specific pieces of hardware or software, but they will not hold a full crowded press conference. I feel like after the walk around debacle of a couple of years ago, I don't feel like Sony is going to do it anymore. I think they understood that they goofed bad. They don't want to do that again, and they'll leave the press conferences and the hypes to what they offer in state of play. I wholly believe that this is the avenue that they have decided is the hill that they're going to die on for that specific way of being able to present things. They will present the the PS5 in a digitally crafted, catered piece of content that will last maybe an hour and a half. They'll showcase the hardware. They'll discuss launch titles, and hopefully they'll show some gameplay, because let's be honest, that's really what everyone comes for. It's just looking like that's where they're going to head with it. I do not feel like Sony is going to announce at E3. I feel like they're going to forego, but then again, they could very well swerve everybody and actually show up at E3 the same way they did a few years. They could have a press conference again. I don't know. I'll put what it is, but I wholly believe that they are dedicated to this idea of what state of play is all about. They would have had some physical presence at TGS otherwise. I wholly feel like they would have had some presence at TGS if they weren't going to stick with state of play.
Yeah. Now, as we round up, I guess we can go off and name some of the features that we feel the PlayStation 5 should probably have going forward. We'll go around, but I'm going to start first. I mean, some of these things they mentioned are real nice, but I'm most importantly thinking that, the user interface is something that they really need to work on. This last generation, in terms of user interface, the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One they're both pretty horrible. PlayStation 4 in particularly is really horrible in regards to managing profiles, and that PlayStation Store is just an absolute horrendous mess. That needs to be overhauled like big time, especially if you're going to be also incorporating, I guess, PlayStation Now probably more firmly in the future. So you
Mhm.
really need to make a storefront that is not a pain in the ass when it comes to searching for things,
Oh, for
especially
sure.
when you're going to the store itself or you're going to the store via a game and getting a completely different experience from either one when it comes to searching for DLC. The user interface in regards to going to a friend's profile and trying to interact with it, I've always found extremely clunky. I've also found it extremely clunky going through a game's profile. So a lot of this stuff
Mhm.
really needs to be worked on the user interface front. So that to me is very important right there. How about you, Mark? What do you think needs the PlayStation 5 needs?
Mm, um, I don't really feel like they need to add anything so much as they just need to focus on what is most important, because I know what's going to happen. They're going to put in a degree of focus on the VR technology that they have associated. They're going to
Mhm.
put in a degree of focus on all of the other, you know, all of the other chickens that they have running around, and they need to really focus on what it is that the consumer, that the player base is going to want, without over delivering on the content they don't care about. We don't
Mhm.
need this to be another Connect situation.
Oh dear.
Nope.
You know,
Oof.
I feel like on what the PlayStation 4 did well with the PlayStation 5 and just
Mhm.
stick with that. We'll see where that goes, but that would be my assessment on what they need to do with this. Just do what you did that was successful and stick with it.
Okay, Jen. And how about you to end the show?
Oh man, quality of life improvements are definitely needed. I understand the idea of behind like the user profiles and the just the interface in general. While crossbar has been sort of the thing that they've had since the PS3 days, and has worked for previous generations of hardware because it wasn't as interconnected as our current generation or what we're going to need going forward. I feel like the main things that they really should work on are very simple. Like they don't need to change a lot of the formula. I think the two main things they should work on are um excuse me, the fan situation because I'm tired of my computer, my PS4 sounding like a jet engine every time I start playing something that's too graphically intensive for it. But um, like that's one of the one things that the Xbox One did right was its cooling. Like it's great for cooling. Like I've never seen an Xbox One overheat personally. Um, but I feel like there are simple things like this controller is not awful. I like this controller. This controller handles well. It does good. The sensitivity is probably some of the best they've ever had.
It's definitely at
Playing,
least better than the last three controller generations.
I mean, I'll be completely honest when I say that I have friends who are utterly biased to the PS1 controller, but they also play Tekken, so
Hmm.
that's a thing that they need it for, and it makes sense that that's a controller that they use. But for people playing modern generation games and playing, the next big thing, this is probably one of the best controllers that Sony has ever put out. This guy right here, this little touchpad thing, it's a little weird. Um, Maybe adding the haptics to the triggers like they're talking about and adding the resistance and stuff like that, like that's basically just the Xbox Elite controller. That's all this is. It just feels like to me that like what they're talking about is giving people the ability to have an Elite controller in their hands shaped like a shaped like a PlayStation controller. So instead of having this down here, it's up here on the Xbox, it's down here for the PlayStation. That's like the major difference between the two controllers, other than, I mean, obvious reasons, you know. But you get specific things that people like and specific things that people don't like, having haptic feedback in the controller makes sense in certain situations, but having the ability to turn that off completely also makes sense. Having modular ability to modify the controller to your own personal play style, I think, is a big deal, especially right now, in not just the fighting game community, but also in the FPS community. Having the ability to have a modular controller is a big fucking deal and sells controllers very well. I know that Razer has a PS4 controller, like a pro controller that lets you modulize where things go, and it's very popular. And I think that the biggest thing that I personally would like to see is just, man, crossplay. It's so simple. Just let people play multiplayer games with each other where they want to play them. Even if it doesn't mean that it's on your console. Maybe it is on your console. Maybe that's the key selling point. Maybe that's the thing that gets people to finally go, I'm only spending $300 on buying a PS5. I don't need to worry about my gaming PC. I mean, I probably still will worry about my gaming PC, but I don't need to for specific games because I prefer being able to play them on a controller. There are so many people right now who are absolutely over the moon about being able to use the controller of their choice on PC and having the PC, the PS4, and the Xbox One versions completely crossplay compatible. Like, this is the first time something like this has been such a big deal for any game, that isn't Fortnite. And yeah, I think like it's just keep it simple. If they can really update the quality of life of the experience within the software and make the ability for people to just do what they want, which really is just simply just play games, I think they got a winner.
All right. Well, I want to thank everybody for tuning in for GVN Live tonight. And before we leave, Jen, what do you got going on coming down the line?
I haven't really been doing much these last 2 weeks just because I've been sort of going through some changes with work now that I'm working from home again and dealing with this new job and not being told that I actually have to wait to work because of background checks. I've got some things that are doing some specific changes with scheduling and things like that so that I can sort of match what I'm actually going to be working on. Pretty sure for going into it, we're probably looking at Code Vein, Destiny, and 14 being on stream here probably within the next week or so. So be on the lookout for that. And other than that, no, I pretty much just, go day to day and do what I need to and go from there.
Okay. Mark, how about you?
Well, we are going to be continuing our live streams of horror games for the entire month of October. This Friday and this Saturday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we will be continuing playing Prey until we complete it or until everybody in the chat gets sick of watching it, whichever comes first.
Okay.
I mean, they may enjoy it all the way through. I'm just giving them that option to tap out of.
Fair.
Again, beyond that, I have the radio show that I have to record, and I want to try and get the video script done last year that I said I was going to release and never did. I'm not going to commit to anything, but we'll see what happens.
Fair enough.
Okay. In regards to me, I might stream something on Thursday. I haven't decided what yet. As for Monster Hunter Mondays, it's still going on. I'm probably going to play a little bit more with the PS4 now because, I got it recovered after a very scary mishap happened on Sunday afternoon. And next Tuesday, I think we are going to attempt to do another GVN Live Plays. So we're going to decide what game we want to maybe try and focus on. So definitely there will be a stream next Tuesday that's not me playing Monster Hunter again. So I'm gonna try and keep my channel as diverse as I possibly can with 3 shows dedicated to something at any given time. So outside of that, yeah, that's pretty much it. So I think it is time we rate somebody. I found somebody. Let's see if she appreciates it. All right. And ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you, and you all have a wonderful night.
Oh, Caitlin. Okay.
Oh, okay. Yeah, for sure.